All right, guys, we are back, and all the parts that we glued last night, which was would only seem like seconds ago for you guys, are now ready to be filed, smoothed, sanded, what have you, to get rid of some of the gaps and some of the seams and some of the edges in preparation to paint the thing. Also, before I get into this, something I've decided to do is to, before I start applying paint, is I'm going to glue these missiles onto the side of the body here before I do the paint work. I believe I'll be able to get a better glue connection of the missile to the body if I go ahead and do that first. I'll spray paint the whole thing, and then I will paint the missile by hand, probably black. I think I'll make it a little bit more like the original toy deco, as opposed to kind of the I don't know, navy gray type of color scheme I used on the first bubble. I'm going to make this one just a little bit different. So with that, I am going to go to work with my needle file. These are super handy little devices. You can get a pretty fine surface on things with these. I might use some sandpaper if I need to, or I might just use the small blade on this knife to help smooth some things over as well. But most of the work's going to be done with the needle file here. So off to work. All right, guys. Well, we are back here after that mad bit of filing. You'll notice that I have glued on the missiles to the body of the trouble bubble here. I've also glued on the auxiliary firearms, and I've glued in that interior piece. The next step is going to be to paint this thing. You'll also notice that I have put some masking tape on this back section here that the jetpack will glue onto. I've also put some masking tape on the front of the jetpack here, where it is going to glue onto there, and I've put some masking tape on the chair on the bottom, where it will glue onto the bubble seat into its place, and I've put some masking tape on the post that will actually fit inside of the control stand portion, because I don't really need to get any paint on the inside on that piece, because it's just going to get rubbed off anyway as that thing rotates around. The cannon, I didn't bother to put any tape on the post on the cannon, because I'm just going to hand paint the cannon. I am not going to spray paint the cannon itself. And since I'm going to be hand painting it, I can avoid getting any kind of spray on the post, because I'm not going to be spraying it. But before I actually paint anything, I wanted to show you the airbrush system. It's totally ghetto, it really is, that I use to do not fine detail airbrushing, but what I would say large area airbrushing. It's really just a spray painting type of a system. That's really all I use it for. It's not fine detail airbrushing work. It's just for covering large areas. It's basically a refillable spray paint can is essentially what I use it for. If you've ever been at hobby shops, or I mean hell, even they'll sell these at Walmart, or craft stores, or places like that, just general retail locations for like 20-30 bucks, whatever it is, they have these Testors brand airbrushes that are intended to be used with that canned air stuff. It looks like a big spray paint can, but it it's not compressed air, but it's like some type of propellant, kind of like that canned air stuff. It's that same type of propellant. It's meant to be used with that, but obviously that gets kind of expensive since you have to keep buying new cans of that propellant. So what I did, I bought this thing years ago. I probably had this 10 or 15 years, long time. I just adapted this to a plain old air compressor. I've got a little tiny cheap air compressor that I use to power this thing, or to provide air for this thing. You can open up this little jar here, and you can put in whatever paint you want. Mix up custom colors, custom consistencies, custom paint types, or what have you. Stick it in that little jar. Screw that jar up inside of there. Plug this airbrush into your air compressor, and you've got your own little spray paint gun. Works fantastic. The only thing I ever really spray paint through this is going to be acrylics, and in fact acrylics are pretty much the only thing I ever paint with. Various brands, various types, but it's all acrylic. Acrylic's the only thing I use. And this works fantastically with acrylics. It's a very simple type of an airbrush system. When you hit the valve here, it's totally single action. When you hit the air valve here, blows air out of that nozzle, blows across that nozzle, and it sucks paint up out of this little reservoir and sprays it out. You don't get a real fine mist. You don't have a whole heck of a lot of control other than varying your air pressure at the pressure regulator on the air compressor, but it does a great job at covering large areas with whatever custom color of paint you might decide to mix up. So with that being said, I'm going to get probably, I think, just kind of a bone white, maybe even just a stark white color mixed up at airbrush consistency to spray paint all of these major components. I'm going to go with kind of a classic color scheme, kind of similar to what the vintage toy had, versus, again, and I think I mentioned this previously, versus the sort of a navy gray type of colors, gunship gray type colors that this one is painted in. Give me a nice little bit of variety in my fleet of trouble bubbles. All right, so I'm going to get some paint mixed up, guys, and we'll get started. All right, guys, we're getting ready to do some painting here, and I wanted to show you my little setup. Let me kind of move the camera around just a little bit. This is a box that I made out of like corrugated plastic, Coroplast stuff. You can make one out of like old political signs. You can buy this stuff raw at like Lowe's. You can order it online, what have you. I think I actually ordered this stuff from like, I don't know, Amazon or something like that. And it just has like a furnace filter in the back here, and then mounted behind that, and yes, we are down in my basement, I just have like a regular box fan that sucks air back through that filter so that any of the paint that gets sprayed into here gets sucked into the filter and caught by the filter and gets stuck to that, as opposed to getting blown throughout the basement. The paint I'm using, which I've mixed up into this little jar here, is actually 3 ingredients. It is Liquitex Heavy Body Acrylic Paint. This stuff, I got this at Michael's. You can get it at a lot of different places. It's great paint, really durable, dries really well, covers really well, coats really well. This stuff, when you get it in the tube like this, it's like toothpaste. It's super thick, so you have to reduce it, not thin it, but reduce it. And I use like this is like Quick Shine acrylic floor polish. This came from Target. It was like $4 for this whole huge bottle of it. Future floor polish or anything like that would work just as well. And I'd prefer to use something like this versus thinning it with water. Although you can thin it with water, I prefer to reduce it with something like this that actually has binder in it itself. This is also kind of basically like a clear acrylic paint, or acrylic varnish, if you want to think of it like that. So even though you're kind of thinning the paint down, you're not weakening it, so it'll still remain durable after the stuff dries. Scratch resistant. I've had really good luck with it. I've been using it for a lot of stuff, meaning this coupled with reducing it with floor polish. I also put in a few drops of just black acrylic ink. High pigment concentration in this stuff. It doesn't take much to tint this stuff, just a little bit. I wanted to give it just a little bit of gray tint. Not much. I was going to leave it just plain white, stark white, but I thought, nah, a little bit of tint, a little bit of gray color. I think it might look a little bit better, but it's not much. It's not going to be as dark gray as the bubble that I've already built. Getting ready to I'm going to put some of this paint into the jar here in the airbrush, and I'm just going to go at it. I'm going to do it in a few steps, probably each piece here, each of these 3 pieces will get about 3 coats. I'll start with a really light mist coat, not even coating the entire thing, just sort of speckled, very sparse coverage for probably the first 3 coats. And after I get 3 very sparse coats on, then I'll start going a little bit heavier. That'll help to prevent or avoid runs and sags and drips and stuff like that, which is what you really want to avoid. You want a nice, smooth, even coat if you can help it. Obviously, it's an airbrush, so I'm going to have an air compressor going, so I'm probably going to turn off the audio on the video, I think, at some point, and maybe even fast forward through it a little bit, because it is kind of boring, but I wanted to show you the setup that I use when I spray paint stuff. And with that, let's get to it. Alright, I'm back. Nothing fancy here. Gonna add some accents to these pieces that have been painted. Seat, we're gonna do the cannon in all black, put some accents and details on the jetpack. I think I'm gonna paint this all black, and then after that dries, I'm gonna go back and put some details in for the buttons, the screen, the dials, maybe a little bit on the handlebars, some of these accents and details here. And then some various details around the periphery of that. And let's just kind of get to it.